Hitachi Energy is proud to partner with the Foreign Desk on Monocle Radio. Powering Purpose is a new book resulting from the partnership between Hitachi Energy and Monocle. It tells the story of the people and the technology leading the energy transition and ushering in a sustainable and secure future. Hitachi Energy and Monocle work together to provide inspiration on powering people's lives and where to find the energy for change in the era of electrification. Secure your copy now at monocle.com or in store in Monocle outlets around the world. And if you want to understand the role you can play in harnessing connections to ensure a brighter, more sustainable and secure future, head to hitachienergy.com. Hitachi Energy and Monocle, inspiring the energy for change.
The war in Ukraine could be about to end.
An intense barrage of Russian missiles and drones raining down on the Ukrainian capital for more than 6 hours as negotiations intensify between the US, Russia and Ukraine.
There is and has been for nearly 4 years one simple and straightforward Ukraine peace plan which could end the fighting in a matter of hours. It is the one whereby Russia withdraws its forces from Ukrainian territory, including the Donbass and Crimea, which are Ukrainian territory. This retreat would ideally be followed by Russia absorbing the modern strategic reality that threats to its security from its west are approximately zero. Granted that there is an amount of history of various European nations attempting to bite chunks off Russia from that direction, but that was all very much then. There are no plans afoot to reconstitute the Swedish Empire or the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, still less to hoist the German or French standard over the Kremlin or restore Prussian sovereignty over Königsberg. In the here and now and the imaginable future, Russia's entire western frontier, from Kirkenes in northern Norway to Mariupol in southern Ukraine, could be perfectly adequately defended by a pimply sentry picking his nose in a toll booth on the outskirts of Smolensk. But peace proposals, like all diplomacy, must address situations and the people creating those situations as they are. Any ideas for peace in Ukraine anytime soon therefore have to acknowledge the reality that President Vladimir Putin of Russia will agree to them only if they give him something to show for the grotesque immensities that Russia has spent on its absurd rampage. The uncountable billions of Russian taxpayers' rubles, the hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers flung against Ukraine's defences in what Ukraine's defenders bleakly refer to as meat waves, and such reserves of global goodwill upon which Russia was still able to draw. The other option, which has also been right there for nearly 4 years, is that Ukraine's allies give Ukraine whatever it requires to decisively defeat Russia. However, the reasons why that has not happened are a whole other explainer, so we will stick with what is presently on the table.
We're having some talks with Russia. Ukraine is doing well. I think they're pretty happy about it. They'd like to see it end. And we won't know for a little while, but we're making progress.
Which is the 28-point plan being brandished by the administration of US President Donald Trump as a blueprint for peace. Interested parties have been huddled over this in various locations all week, fossicking for elements which might be agreeable to Moscow, Kyiv, and the capitals of Europe, many of whom, for reasons of geographical proximity, regard the matter as less abstract than Washington, D.C. appears to. There are certainly grounds for Ukraine and Europe to be cautious, verging on downright apprehensive. The original 28 points read uncomfortably like a Russian wish list, and there has been plausible reporting that this is exactly what it is, literally drafted at least partially by Russia, at least some of the work done, at a recent meeting in Miami between President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, President Trump's Russia envoy Steve Witkoff, and Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian tycoon who heads Russia's sovereign wealth fund. You probably wouldn't be content to let this trio decide your future. Neither is Ukraine, probably even less so since Bloomberg published leaked recordings of Witkoff coaching Putin's foreign policy advisor Yuri Ashakov on how to correctly flatter Trump. A reminder that in a normal administration, someone in Witkoff's position would be advising American negotiators how to talk to the Russians.
I haven't heard it, but I heard it was standard negotiation.
The principal sticking point is territory. The plan calls for Ukraine to formally cede to Russia all of Crimea, which Russia invaded and annexed in 2014, plus Luhansk and Donetsk, 2 of the 4 Ukrainian oblasts which Russia annexed in 2022, despite the fact that in nearly 4 years of fighting, Russia has failed to take all of their territory by force. In the other 2 Ukrainian oblasts claimed by Russia, Kherson and Zaporizhia, Russia is apparently content to freeze the fighting along current front lines. An implicit recognition, perhaps, of Russia's exhaustion and/or intention to retain the option to restart the war if and when expedient.
And I'm ready to meet with President Trump, and there are sensitive points to discuss.
President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has been careful not to reject the plan outright. He would rather keep the United States on side if possible, and so has issued some placatory blather along the lines of many correct elements have been incorporated and so forth. But he has reiterated his trenchant objections to territorial concessions for all the obvious reasons, i.e. that the territory is Ukraine's, that Europe should by now have absorbed that allowing any of its nations or indeed neighbours to change Europe's internal borders by force rarely leads to positive outcomes for the continent as a whole, and that it would be tough to sell Ukraine's people the proposition that their sacrifices, both horrendous and heroic, will not, after all, deliver the total victory they deserve. As of this recording, the 28 points are reportedly down to 19. This is actually potentially encouraging. It signals that the 28 points were floated as a maximalist position from which concessions might be made. This is not unusual in any negotiation, and Zelensky may also have laid down his red lines with a nod and a wink that they might be shiftable. One possible eventual settlement could be thought of as the post-World War II Germany model, a West Ukraine incorporated into Western political structures while it waits for everyone in East Ukraine to get sick of living under Russia.
As long as Russia has not taken real steps to shut down its war machine, steps that would clearly show that Russia is serious about ending this war of aggression, we do not have the right to demobilize.
But what none of the above accounts for is that it is very far from clear that Russia actually wants the war to end. Even the concessions Putin is apparently demanding are an acknowledgement that Russia has failed, that it has been fought to a standstill by a smaller neighbour, and that Putin's visions of 2 peoples mystically joined by history are a fantasy. He will also be well aware that 1 or 2 previous instances of thwarted Russian troops trudging resentfully back home from botched wars have gone suboptimally for the person who sent them. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller.